Hello, good morning. Good Thursday morning before Thanksgiving. This here is the Hermetic Rose Cross, one of the designs. Of course, you recognize it from the Golden Dawn and other Rosicrucian organizations. This is Hermetic Rose Cross, sort of the fancy one. It's got a five-pointed or a five-petaled rose, tiny one right in the middle. You can't see it, but there's a white dot in the middle of that rose. And then surrounding that is a little rose cross, a little golden rose cross, okay? And around that is three petals for the three mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and around that is the seven double letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and around that the 12 simple letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Then we got our elements of air, water, fire, earth, and a pentagram in the middle of that with its sub-elements. So this would be like the tarot suits of swords, and that star there would be the four court cards, and the ace represented by that spear. Oh, it's just got all sorts of shit in that. But today I'm still talking about, I'm still using the Magick without tears. This is how most people get Magick without tears today, without paying collector's prices for old editions of it. And we're talking about the three schools of magic, yellow, white, and black. And Crowley wrote three very lengthy letters sort of explaining that. So we've already talked about the yellow and the white and the black, and in the days before. So you might want to either go to YouTube or scroll down my page if you want to hear those. This is the third letter, or part three of the three schools of magic. And Crowley really gets into a few things that are pertinent to us. He makes references to things that were going on in the 20s, but actually he was writing this letter just right after or during and after World War II, just before he died, in other words. So when he's starting to talk about geopolitical things, he's doing it from a rather modern point of view. Of course, this was before the A-bomb and things like that. Crowley died in 1947, so he did see the A-bomb, but not for very long. So that's just sort of to set the stage for this first section that I'm going to read to you today. I want to say a few words about Krishnamurti, because Crowley is going to say some pretty uncomplimentary things about Krishnamurti. But he was writing those things, and the footnotes here will bear this out. This was sort of his attitude very early on in the 20th century. He was pretty upset about what he considered the shenanigans of members of the Theosophic Society to hold up their candidate for world teacher. And it was an unfortunate thing, and they really did, as far as I can see, take advantage the naivete of a young holy man. Okay, and I want to say right now, I have the deepest respect for the holy man that Krishnamurti became in his later years. He was wise enough to say, "Hey, you guys, screw you. I'm no world teacher, and if I am a world teacher, I don't need you guys to exploit me." So anyway, but at the time, okay, Crowley was actually toying with the idea whether he had a right to do this or not, that he, in a sense, was at least fulfilling the role of a world teacher, and it just pissed him off to see this shenanigans going on. Now, this isn't Blavatsky. This is others in the movement, because he liked Blavatsky, as we will see here in a second. So I'm warning you in advance that I'm going to read what Crowley wrote, which was partially early in the century and partially closer to his death, concerning Krishnamurti. And anyway, with that, here we go. Three Schools of Magic, Part 3. Kara Soror, do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. There is in history only one movement whose object has been to organize the isolated adepts of the White School of Magic. And this movement was totally unconnected with religion, except insofar as it lent its influence to the reformers of the Christian Church. And when he says reformers of the Christian Church, he's talking Reformation with the capital R, the Protestant Reformation. Its appeal was not at all to the people. It merely offered to open up relations with and communicate with certain practical secrets of wisdom to isolated men of science throughout Europe. This movement is generally known by the name Rosicrucianism. The word arouses all sorts of regrettable correspondences. But the adepts of the society have never worried themselves in the least about the abuse of their name for the purposes of charlatanism, or about the attacks directed against them by envious critics. Indeed, so wisely have they concealed their activities that some modern scholars of the shallower type have declared that no such movement ever existed. That is, that it was kind of a practical joke played on the curiosity of the credulous Middle Ages. It is at least certain that since the original proclamations, the Fama and the Confessions, no official publications have been put forward. The essential secrets have been maintained inviolate. If during the last few years a considerable number of documents have been published by them, though not in their name, it is on account of the impending crisis to civilization, of which mention will be later made. There is no good purpose, even if there were license, to discuss the nature of the basis of scientific attainment, which is the core of the doctrines of the society. It is only necessary to point out that its correspondence with alchemy is one genuine fact of the subject which has been allowed to transpire. For the Rosicrucian, as indicated by his central symbol, the barren cross on which he has made the rose flower, occupies him primarily with spiritual and physiological alchemy. Taking for the first matter of the work a neutral or inert substance, it is consistently described as the commonest and least valued thing on earth, and may actually connote any substance whatsoever. He deliberately poisons it, so to speak, bringing it to a stage of transmutation generally called the black dragon. And he proceeds to work upon this virulent poison until he obtains the perfection theoretically possible. Incidentally, we have an almost precise parallel with this operation in modern bacteriology. Here's a Crowley digression. The apparently harmless bacilli of a disease are cultivated until they become 1,000 times more virulent than the first, and it is from this culture that is prepared the vaccine, which is an efficacious remedy for all possible ravages of that kind of microorganism. But he digresses. We have been obliged to expose, perhaps at too considerable length, the main doctrines of the three schools. The task, however tedious, has been necessary in order to explain with reasonable lucidity their connection with the world, which their ideas direct. That is to say, the nature of their political activities. The yellow school, that's sort of the Tao Te Ching, the Tao. The yellow school, in accordance with its doctrine of perfect elastic reaction and non-interference, holds itself, generally speaking, entirely apart from such questions. We can hardly imagine it sufficiently interested in any events soever to react aggressively. It feels strong enough to deal satisfactorily with anything that may turn up, and generally speaking, it feels that any conceivable action on its part would be likely to increase rather than diminish the mischief. It remains somewhat contemptuously aloof from the central conflict of the black school and the white. At the same time, there's a certain feeling among the yellow adepts that should either of these schools become annihilated, the result might well be that the victor sooner or later turn his released energy against themselves. In accordance, therefore, with their general plan of non-action as expressed in the Tao Te Ching, of dealing with mischief before it has become too strong to be dangerous, they interfere gently from time to time to redress the balance. During the last 2 generations, the masters of the yellow school have been compelled to take notice of the progressive ruin of the white adepts. Christianity, which possessed at least the semblance of a white formula, is in the agonies of decomposition, even before it is actually dead. Materialistic science has overwhelmed the faith and hope of the Christians. Okay, that's faith, it says faith, hope, and charity are the 3. Now get this, I'll back up. Materialistic science has overwhelmed the faith and hope of the Christians. They never possessed any charity to overwhelm. Okay, I'll back up again and just take that wonderful parenthetical out. Materialistic science has overwhelmed the faith and hope of the Christians with a demonstration of the sorrow, transitoriness, and cruel futility of the universe. A wave of pessimism has engulfed the fortress of man's soul. It was indeed a deadly blow to the adepts of the white school when science, their own familiar friend in whom they trusted, lifted up his heel against them. It was in this conjuncture that the yellow adepts sent forth into the Western world a messenger, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, with the distinct mission to destroy, on one hand, the crude schools of Christianity, and on the other, to eradicate the materialism from the physical science. She made the necessary connection with Edward Maitland and Anna Kingsford, who were trying rather helplessly to put the exoteric formula of the white school into the hands of students, and with the secret representatives of the Rosicrucian Brotherhood. It is not for us in this place to estimate the degree of success which she carried out her embassy, but at least we see today that physical science is at last penetrating to the spiritual basis of material phenomena. Now, with all of the quantum stuff, Constance and I watch Nova a lot on TV just to kind of see what white bread science is doing. And when discussing subatomic particles, gravity, black holes, things like that, the language modern science uses is overtly mystical in nature. So that's my digression. The work of Henri Poincare, Einstein, Whitehead, and Bertrand Russell is sufficient evidence of this fact. Christianity, too, has fallen into a lower degree of contempt than ever. Realizing that it was moribund, it made a supreme and suicidal effort and plunged into the death spasm of the First World War. It was too far corrupt to reject the injections of the white formula, which might have saved it. We see today that Christianity is more bigoted, further divorced from reality than ever. In some countries, it has again become the persecuting church. With horrid glee, the adepts of the black school looked on at these atrocious paroxysms. But it did more. It marshaled its forces quietly and prepared to clean up the debris of the battlefields. It is at present, and when he wrote this was 1924, it is at present pledged to a supreme attempt to chase manly races from their spiritual helldom. That spasm still, now it says in 1945, continues. Note well the pro-German screams of Anglican bishops. It was really kind of hard to shake the fascists out of the church and British Tory politics before World War II. New masterpiece theaters and stuff are now touching on that. I was raised thinking, well, England was, they hated Hitler from the beginning. No, it was really hard for Churchill to get people pissed at Hitler for a long time. But I digress. Anglican bishops and intrigues with the Vatican. The black school has always worked insidiously by treachery, and we need not be surprised by finding its most notable representative was the renegade follower of Blavatsky, Annie Besant. And here we get, Crowley is getting out his soapbox here. Annie Besant, and that she was charged by her black masters with the mission of persuading the world to accept for its teacher the, and this is Crowley's word, Negroid Messiah. To make the humiliation more complete, a wretched creature was chosen to the most loathsome moral qualities, added the most fatuous imbecility, and then blew it up. And then blew up. Okay, that was terrible. Obviously terribly. This is Crowley being small, which he could do often. And if he would have seen, if he could have taken the time to foresee the saint that Krishnamurti would become, he might have tempered that statement, but that's just my own observation. This, then, is the present state of the war of the three schools. We cannot suppose that humanity is so entirely base as to accept Krishnamurti. And Krishnamurti was the one to recognize it himself. He says, screw you guys. No, that's not what I want to be. That's not who I am. And that's not what you're trying to tell the world. Although Crowley was toying with the idea, well, maybe that's me. And to this day, I cringe at the suggestion of any teacher, no matter how wise or well connected, would presume to accept the role of world teacher. This, then, is the present state of the war of the three schools. We cannot suppose that humanity is so entirely base as to accept Krishnamurti, yet that such a scheme should ever have been conceived is a symptom of the almost hopeless decadence of the white school. The black adepts boast openly that they have triumphed all along the line. Their formula has attained the destruction of all positive qualities. It is only one step to the stage when the annihilation of all life and thought will appear as a fatal necessity. The materialism and vital skepticism of the present time, its frenzied rush for pleasure in total disregard of any idea of building for the future, testifies to a condition of complete moral disorder, of abject spiritual anarchy. The white school has thus been paralyzed. We are reminded of the spider described by Farber, who injects her victims with poison which paralyzes them without killing them so that their own young may find fresh meat. And this is what's going to happen to Europe and America unless something is done about it, and done in very short order. And that's where we're going. There's more. But that's where we're going to leave it today. Because it's too good to stop reading right now. So, well, you'll notice I'm bundled up. It's, again, very cold in the house. I'm just back from my walk. Actually, it's not cold enough for me to leave all of this on, but I wouldn't have started on time if I would have stripped down to my workout clothes. Okay, until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt. This shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.